Hello. Hello and welcome to the debrief. It's Dave O'Neill sitting in my car in the middle of nowhere. Just done a gig last night with Jimoen and we're about to chat to the man that is Jimoen. I've got the red cord mic. He's got the orange cord mic. Oh, listen to that. Okay. I've got to wake him up. He's still asleep. All right. Wish me luck. Well, hello and welcome to the debrief. It's Dave O'Neill here on the road with Jimoen.
Yep.
And we're driving from Mooranda.
Yep. You're heading into Shepparton, is it?
We've just gone around Shep.
Oh, did we? Oh, right. I missed it.
You missed it because we went around on the truck route.
Oh, right. Okay. I like Shep. I haven't been to Shep for a while.
You would have done many gigs in Shep, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I did. The last one of the times I was in Shepparton, there was a youth muster, and it was a feral night.
Oh, I can imagine the youth muster.
Yeah.
But we did a gig last night in like a theatre, but it was like a shed. The Mooranda Opera, something Palladium or something.
Can't remember.
I don't know, but it was huge.
Was it not Mooranda as the place we were at?
Yeah. Mooranda?
Like down under Mooranda?
Mooranda, yeah, like near Jerilderie.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a good night. But I'm trying to think when I first met you. That's what I do on this podcast, Jimoen. I reminisce about when I first met comics. I reckon it would have been at the Star and Garter.
Yeah, it probably would be.
In the 90s. So
yeah.
You started comedy 88 or 89? Did you start?
88, I think it was, yeah. 88.
Yeah, I started 1990. And the Star and Garter was a great pub in South Melbourne.
Yeah.
And you and Bob Franklin used to run it.
Yeah, well, so a friend of mine, Steve Phillips, he bought the pub, and then we were living in Sydney, so we came down, and Bob and I stayed above the pub, and I said, I'll run a comedy night on a Thursday night, which became, which is now the Comics Lounge, because...
Well, they bought it, didn't they?
They bought it, yeah, and then, there was all these problems with the noise of neighbours, that you could... Bob had a great joke. At the end of the night, he go, like, we're having a few issues with the neighbours and the noise, so if you could be really mindful of that when you're leaving, and if I could get everyone just to leave by that little window in the women's toilet.
That's right, I remember that.
It's a great image.
And I remember you would walk through the main bar to get to the comedy room.
Yeah.
Remember that? You'd walk through the bar to get to the comedy room, and Jeff Stilson said, I just came through the main bar and there's three guys sitting watching Cheers on TV. And one of them turned to the other one and said, why aren't you as funny as that guy? Joke. He was good, Jeff Stilson. He was funny.
Yeah. That was the reason I came down to Melbourne, because I got to support him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I did 3 weeks at the comedy club supporting Jeff Stilson. And then I got another 4 weeks supporting Wayne Cooter?
Wayne. I remember Wayne.
Coulter? I can't remember. Anyway, and then I got 6 weeks and then another extension of 4 weeks in The Last Laugh as the MC with the Phones.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they were a musical group. Yeah.
And that's how I met Michael Dalton. And that's how I met Rusty.
Oh, yeah, Rusty and
John. The scared weird little guys.
They were in that, the Phones, weren't
they? And I definitely met you at the Star and Garter.
The Star and Garter, because I remember when you started and you got sort of famous quite quickly. You'd have to say.
Yep.
Because I remember one of my...
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
No.
I remember this girl that I lived in a shared house with came home and said, we're this really funny Irish comic at uni today. and he talked about seagulls without eyebrows.
Oh, yeah, I remember that gig. And I remember that gig because I remember people recognizing me because I'd just been on the big gig.
Yes, that's right.
And then I went on
what
the
year?
big...
Do you reckon that was 89 or 90?
90.
Yeah.
And I've been on the big gig, and then someone said, oh, you've got like a corporate gig. And I was like, what? Yeah, these guys want you at a university to come and do a spot at the... They'll pay you $400. And I was like, what?
Yeah, as we know now, that's not really a corporate gig, but it's a...
Yeah,
it was at lunchtime, wasn't it?
Lunchtime, yeah.
At RMIT? RMIT, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
I did a Port Melbourne Cricket Club, and boy, I died my ass.
That's right. That can be rough, though, Port Melbourne.
Oh, my God. I really died. Did the best joke, it died. Did the last joke you do in your set, which is second best joke, it died. And then I did 15 minutes of Bob's material, which was all real good stuff, and it all died. I had to tell Bob that he died at a gig that he wasn't even at.
Yeah, but don't you reckon you die a lot more when you start out?
Yeah, yeah.
So one gig would be great, and the next gig would be awful.
Yeah. There's lots of it. You're like the phoenix rising from the ashes.
Oh, just awful. I remember gigs I remember also doing a gig and the first joke going really well, and I'm off, and then in 5 minutes later I'm dying. Like, just dying. People started talking, but my first joke went well, you know, like...
Yeah.
Oh, awful. Awful time.
Funny, though.
Funny, though. Yeah, so that would have been the I would have met you about 91 or 92.
Yeah, it was a good room to star in, Gar.
Oh, it was great.
A lot of love in that room, and a lot of people that I still know I met there. Pity about those two columns. They're always those two freaking...
There's two in the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But it was a good night because, you know, it was a good night because you had... I mean, I remember I would go on and do the open mic. They had like an amateur spot at the start.
Yeah.
Like for new people. Then they'd have a middle act, like two people, and then have a decent headliner at the end. So then people like be Anthony Morgan or Judith Lucy or...
Yeah.
And so you get... And as a young comic, you get to see all these great comics. Like...
Yeah, Anthony was... what was his surname again? Anthony... Morgan. He was different. He was really...
Well, he was not scared of dying. That's the thing. He was
really interesting. Like, a lot of comics, you wouldn't watch their act twice. You know, you get bored seeing their act, but you wouldn't get bored seeing his act because...
Oh, you changed it
up. It was just so volatile.
Yes.
You didn't know what was going to happen.
Oh, anything could happen with Morgs. Absolutely. And then I worked on your TV show.
Yep.
Which was great fun, working on that show.
Yeah.
Because that show... Man, they used to rate... Those ratings now... I remember the first episode rated over 20.
Yeah, the first episode...
Beat 60 Minutes.
Yeah, they were going nuts. They were going
It was on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It was the biggest 180 I've ever experienced in showbiz. I was on Channel 7 and the Artist Services, they asked me to host the show, Tonight Live.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing you do that. You did a thing with Doonas at the end.
I did it once, and then they said, all right, we want you to do 15 of them. We want you to be a host, do 15 episodes. And we signed a contract to do it, and the network got involved, and they went, no, we don't want him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And then they got involved, and they go, so that was the first thing. They don't want you to do it. All right. And then a couple of days later, they came back and said, we don't even want you on the show. We don't want you on Channel 7, full stop.
What? Is this before the sketch show?
Yeah.
What?
So, and I'm like, that's a bit hard. Yeah, they don't like your accent, and they don't like you, and they don't want you on the show. Anyway, I went back to the UK. I went to Edinburgh, and then stayed on at Edinburgh for 6 months in the UK touring. And in that time, they had this comedy show at a supermarket.
The comedy... I worked on that.
Right.
The comedy store, the comedy
and it died.
Yeah, they did 3 episodes.
It died.
Yeah, I worked in the pilot. Oh.
And then, anyway, all the comics linked with it were all damaged too because it died.
The found objects were in it.
Everybody was in it. Everyone was down.
Ross Daniels. Yeah.
One friggin'
Akmal was in it.
Everyone's in it. And then one of the executives from Channel 7 was driving through London in a car, and he could see I was on the West End in a big theatre. and he said, well, why don't we get him to come back and do a pilot? So the next thing, friggin' Art of Services are calling me up. Would you come back to have lunch with us and talk? So I'm having friggin' lunch, and they want you to do your own show. I go, what? Is this the same people that said they didn't even want me on the network 6 months ago? And he goes, yeah. And so they did a pilot. We'll do a pilot in 2 weeks' time. What? And then they did the pilot, and the guy walked up to me that night and he goes, yeah, we're doing this. And I was like, oh, wow,
that's a turnaround.
That's a big turnaround. And then all of a sudden I've got my own show.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But, you know, I had a backlog of stand-up, and every episode I had 10 minutes of stand-up.
Yeah, I remember.
And then when I got to the end of that, I didn't want to do it anymore, even though it was really rating well. And I ended up got into a legal battle with them all because they wanted me to return to do the show, and I didn't want to do it. So
You did a second series,
yeah, but against my will, really, against my will.
Right, because we still quote some of the, some of the lines from that show.
Mm.
The Marta brothers.
Yeah, the Marta brothers.
You and Bob were bodybuilders.
Oh yeah,
Welsh bodybuilders.
That's right.
You're well fit. What did you say? You're like
bloody huge.
You're bloody huge. That's it. You're bloody huge.
And you are. We both are. And I am. I know.
Yeah, we still. It was funny because it had the show sort of reflected your sense of humour, that it was a bit quirky, and as opposed to like I worked on Full Frontal and stuff like that, it was a bit more cerebral, or like. Yeah,
they used to do political stuff on Full Frontal.
Yeah,
and I despised all of that. And then we did the first episode, and then they were trying to rewrite it, and Glenn Robbins, because they had a lot of respect for him, they said, no, you got to do, this is, and he would point at me with 2 hands, this is his show.
Yeah.
And then he pointed at everyone else, you people have to do what he wants to, and then
Yeah, see, Glenn's often right when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, he goes, it has to reflect what his sense of humor is. So then they just backed off and let me go with writing with Bob and writing with you and writing. All right. And then they wouldn't edit it. They would just let us do it. And then, I remember, the second episode, I go, right, now we're getting real close to that kind of level of daftness.
It was funny. And
it was just daft,
Yeah, we did I remember doing the Seagull sketch with Glenn, where we all played, and Sean McAuliffe was in it.
Yes.
Remember Sean
and
was
you played a seagull with a bad leg.
Yeah. We had some chips, and we were all playing seagulls in a meeting, like.
Yes.
Yeah, but also just good. I remember I wrote a sketch where you got presented a giant check at a charity do.
Yes.
And then you took the giant check to a bank and got a giant
that's right.
$50 note. And then you came with the idea, and I'd go into an ice cream shop and get a giant ice cream with the...
Yeah, I remember that sketch.
Yeah, there was funny sketches.
There was stuff, I remember, I had the idea for Detachable Toe.
Detachable Toe.
And there was just friggin' silence in the room, because I was in America in a meeting, and I could hear everyone just go quiet. And I got over there, and they'd written it as something, not toe, but something detachable.
It was like a superhero, wasn't he?
Yeah, but it wasn't a toe, it was something else, like a willy or something. And I was going, no, a toe. And they were like, oh, right, that's even more stupid. That's ridiculous. And I go, let's just go with it. Just go, let's just do it, and then we'll see how ridiculous it was ridiculous. But it got a big laugh. People freaking loved it.
People loved it. It had a little song.
Yeah, and it was just... And kids loved it. It was kind of nonsensey.
Yeah.
Like, kids kind of liked it.
But kids would have loved that whole series because it was on at 7:30.
Yeah.
And it wasn't rude. And it was silly.
And do you know that
Maybe he had the old Irish...
skeleton, cap. He-Man, do you remember He-Man?
Yeah.
That cartoon,
Yeah,
and then
He-Man,
it would go whoosh, and then it goes. So that became that thing, the breaker. That where we go tin of beans, whoosh,
Yeah.
And that idea came from He-Man. I always found that funny in He-Man.
Oh yeah.
And then I thought, I'll just do that. And then they were going, what the hell is this? And I go, and it was one of those things that just wore people down. It was just after a while people started going,
all right,
that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Let's just go with it.
How many episodes did you do with that
I did
show?
15 1 hours in the first year.
That's right.
And then
That's a lot of material, isn't it?
And
15 1 hours.
And then they were trying to contract me to do another 15 hours.
But you did half an hour once.
I said I'd do half an hour. And then they said, oh, by the way, in the contract it says everything has to be in writing. So you've now passed that date, so you now owe us 15 1 hours. And I go, well, I'm not going to do it, and you can't make me do it. And so we settled on 10 half hours.
Yeah, right.
But I had a head of thunder on me, walking around going, I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah, I can't remember much of. I remember that first.
Well,
series.
what happened was Big Girl's Blouse was the other half hour.
That's right.
And then so it was half an hour Jimoen, half an hour Big Girl's Blouse. And then Channel 7 was up against something to Channel 9 that would start ER. ER would start on Channel 9 a half hour before. And ER was the number one show on TV.
That's right, yeah.
And then, and because it started a half an hour before our show, people would stick with ER. So then Channel 7 said, right, well, we got to put big movies on. So they pulled Big Girl's Blouse and Jimoen for these big movies. So they only played about 6 of them, and I was over the moon like, yes. Because it wasn't as good in my mind.
Yeah, right. Big Girl's Blouse, of course, was Magda and Kath and Kim.
Yeah, Big Girl's Blouse was great.
It was funny.
Jesus. I saw them doing... have you seen them doing the drag characters?
Yeah.
And it's 2 women dressed as
men dressed
as women.
Yeah.
And it's what am I watching here? And there's no language. There's just
Yeah, it was funny.
And I just thought that's kind of really daft.
And so when did you do the movie The Crack? Was that was a year after that, or?
Yeah, and then after it finished the Jimoen series, I thought, all right, I'll try and write something. And I was living in a flat when I first came over with all these people that were illegal immigrants, and I just thought that's a good setting for a film.
Yeah, and that went well, didn't it? The Crack.
I didn't realize. What happened was
for an Australian film, it did really well.
Alan Finney, the guy that commissioned it, that was the last thing he commissioned, and then he left and went to Beyond. So he left Village Roadshow, and he told me this afterwards. He said, the head of Village, Graham, whatever his name is, said, "All right, we're not doing that film." And Alan goes, "No, I think you are. I think you'll see contractually we have committed to doing that film." Right, well, I'm not interested in it. I'm not in the slightest bit. I don't want to know anything about it. So we never saw anybody. They never came near us.
No, really.
And we made the film and then handed it to them a year later, from when the contract was, and had it finished, edited. And then they came back to us and go, "We've played this to test audiences, and it rates, really highly."
Yeah, wow.
So we're going to release this on 300 screens, like a big release.
That's big in Australia.
And we're going to go really hard at this. And it's opening weekend. It was like the biggest film. I was up, and it got up because Alan Finney had commissioned The Castle.
Yeah, right. So they trusted him. Yeah.
So I saw him at a little cafe in Chapel Street, La Luciola. And he said, I was just standing, it was packed, and he said, "You should do a movie." And I went, "All right, I'll meet you here next week."
Oh, really?
For lunch. It's a tiny little restaurant, so I went there next week, and I handed them the script. And I literally just finished it.
Oh, wow. What, in a week, or?
No, I've
been doing
I've
it
been
anyway.
writing it.
Yeah.
And then I just happened to finish it and handed it to him. Like, he goes to me, "What? You should do a movie." I go, "I'll meet you here next week." And he read the script, and then he said, "Oh, yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is so easy." And then nobody came near me. They let me do exactly what nobody told me I had to do this or that and anything. And I just, "Oh, this is the best." And then we released it. It was a big hit. And then the next out of the film, it was a bank, and they were all over it, and they
the
kept
extras.
telling me the friggin' who the cast was, and then they pulled out $500,000 of the budget just as we were shooting the last scenes. We're like, "Oh, that's so we can't even finish the film." Yeah, and it was a friggin' nightmare.
But isn't it interesting? So the extras, which wasn't as successful, is actually basically the same thing that Ricky Gervais did in that. The similar idea.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
because you'd been an extra on shows.
Yes.
And it is a bizarre world, that world of being an extra, and you wanted to put that in the movies.
Yeah,
It wasn't successful, but 20 years later, Ricky Gervais made the same kind of idea.
Yeah, I think he did hit just slightly afterwards.
It wasn't 20 years. It was
kind of very close at the same time. But anyway, his was fantastic.
Yes.
Mine was shit. But that it did really well in China. It got released in China, and it got released in Japan, and it got 300 screens in China, and you know.
I remember you saying in an interview, or maybe you just told me or someone, they said when it came out and it failed and all that, and you went. But I remember you got on a plane and you looked out the window and you thought, it doesn't matter that much, as you flew out of Australia. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I did, but I took it pretty badly. But
yeah, you put your whole life into it for several years.
Yeah. And the way it unfolded, you know, and of course it's like a stand-up gig. When you do a stand-up gig and you get really fussy about where the chairs are, because you're the guy with the egg in your face.
Exactly.
When it doesn't work, and boy, did I have egg in my face! Friggin' after that came out, because it just. But you know, I could see all the things that were going wrong as they were going wrong. You've changed this. They put a friggin' writer rewriting what I'd written. I was like, this is insulting.
When me and Marco Toole wrote a movie, Takeaway, which again. Similar time, around that same time, because they all followed the Castle, these movies, because they saw that the Castle and then the Crack and then the Dish was such big hits. We're going to do this again and again with Australian comedians, and we wrote Takeaway, and the test screenings were great, and it just died in the arse. Because the ending was no good on Takeaway.
Yeah, you need a really. Like even a bad film with a really good ending is redeemable, because you could but a really good film and that doesn't have a strong ending, you go, what was the point in that?
Yeah.
Like The Beach, remember The Beach? It just where's this going?
Yeah, it's hard, but you put your heart and soul into it, and then
but then I flew to New Zealand and I was the host of the gala, and I really threw myself into nailing that, and I really came at it with a sense of humour, and I was like, fuck that movie shit.
Yeah.
Do what I do. Do the thing that I do, which is stand up, and I don't have to talk to no committee. I don't have to run my jokes past anyone. I don't have to do anything.
Well, that's the good thing about stand up. It's the purest form. And
a simple form. Like, it doesn't I think they spent $8.5 million on the extra.
Yeah, wow.
And the Crack was $1.5 million.
It was cheap, wasn't it?
Cheap film. Yeah, we shot it on 16 mil, super 16 mil. You know, that was
on actual film.
Yeah, on film. Yeah, and we went to Broken Hill and Silverton, and we stayed up there for a month. And it was the Crack. It was really good fun.
But now touring, you tour a lot, and see, because we were doing last night, and you're still a big name in comedy. That's the thing, and you go back to England every year, don't you? And do Edinburgh?
Yep, I do. Oh, I do the UK. I'm not doing Edinburgh this year, but I've done it enough.
How many times have you done Edinburgh?
I think 27 times.
That's
something ridiculous.
Incredible.
Obviously not
but
getting the message. But
you would have been doing comedy only for 35 years, and you've done it 27 times.
Yeah.
And so, in Edinburgh now, you'd be like an established name, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Right. I get big crowds at Edinburgh. But the thing is, I can go to Edinburgh now out of festival, and it goes well.
Is that the same? Because before we were recording, you were telling me about going on Michael McIntyre's show.
Yep.
and the Apollo, those big TV shows. So you two are, because Brooksy, mutual friend of ours, Brooksy from the Music Man, went and saw you in some theatre near Birmingham or where
Manchester,
and he said it was massive.
Yeah.
You were playing some massive theatre.
Yeah, that's where I did the Royal Variety Show. What's that theatre called? Something Salford. Anyway, yeah. So, so the UK's really good. Like the UK's really strong, and Scotland and Ireland.
So you two are there and get big crowds in those places.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
That's real hard work. Head down every night, somewhere different. Drive 3 or 4 hours every day. Do the next place.
And you go back basically every year with a new act to those places.
Yeah, I normally don't go to the same place for about a year and a half. Although I've been doing Belfast, and I've been really having to write. And I did Edinburgh, and I walked away at the end of it, and I didn't enjoy it, and I didn't write enough material. And I thought, the only reason I'm doing this is to write material.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting that, so I'm not doing it again. That's just pointless.
Yeah.
And I've been doing the Comics Lounge on a Tuesday and just having a lot more fun, I seem to write better and try more stuff.
Maybe is that because you're at home and
I think it is.
More stuff happening instead of just being in hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And then trying to sit down and write, oh my God, and then it just locks up, and then you go into a dark place.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, fuck. And then nothing's funny then.
With your writing process, do you actually sit somewhere and write it on a pad?
I've got my phone.
Oh, you do it on your phone?
And I just think of something, and then I'll tape it on the phone.
Okay, right.
And then come Monday, or even Tuesday, I'll go through the phone, and there's probably only about 20 little things in it since the last Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I write them on a piece of paper, and then I just do them on stage.
That's great.
And then I just go through. I take the book on stage, and I just go through them but then when I get on stage, I lose confidence in some bits. I go, don't be doing that bit. That's not gonna. Why did I ever think?
Well, like last night, we were in this great shed, which has been turned into a theatre, and I started a new bit that I've only done twice, but I bailed.
Yeah,
you go, oh no, I won't do it here.
And I can plan to say something and then really, really think and try and get the wording right, and then I go to do it and I think, here we go. Could hurt myself here. I could come off. I could hurt myself, and then I'll just think of something in that moment and I say it, and it works really well because you haven't put that pressure on it.
Yeah, right. So you do a bit of that writing on stage?
Yeah, write it when I come off stage, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just really enjoying just having a funny thought. Also, I know not to trust myself. Like, I remember going through this thing, I would give the piece of paper to someone in the front row.
I remember that.
And then...
And you say, what topic's next?
Yeah, and then they'd do a bit, and they did it. Someone said a bit, and I went, I have no confidence in that bit. And then they would go on, do it. Anyway, do it. So I did it, and it killed. And I was like, I was about making a cup of tea, forgetting to turn the kettle on, thinking you'd turned it on. It became a real big bit, but I remember not having any confidence in it.
Yeah, because it's actually, it's so small. It's such a small thing.
Yeah, they're not going to get this. And they did.
Yeah, that's what... But that's your expertise, is that minutiae of life, that small...
What?
You know, you do a lot of that stuff about the minutiae of life.
Minutiae?
Is that what it's called? I think that means small
Never
things.
Never heard that word.
So it must be French. Small things of life. And everyone just goes, oh, yeah, of course. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know when you think you've heard every routine about brushing your teeth, and then someone does it, you're like, oh, fuck. Think of that.
Yeah, or a really good bit, and you keep running it past other people. Does anybody do that?
Yeah.
It's so obvious. Someone's got to do it. No one does
Someone's
that.
done it.
No one's done it. All right.
So you did the Royal Variety, but who was there when you did the Royal Variety? Was it Prince Charles?
Prince Margaret.
Prince Margaret seems pretty funny.
Yeah. And her husband, he was shying away to me.
Oh, really?
Because I was from Northern Ireland and he had been in the military. I was based in Northern Ireland.
Yes, I was in Derry.
Yeah.
I loved Derry.
But I didn't stay in Northern Ireland. I was, every night a submarine would take me across to Scotland. Because I was...
Danger, you'd be a target.
I was a high target. I was high-level ranking officer.
Good Lord. Every night a submarine would take him across.
Yeah.
What?
I was going to say, we have met before, but I had a balaclava on the last time.
You should have said that. What? Who was on the bill with you? Was it Elton John or anyone remarkable? Because sometimes you look at your lineup and you go, "That's not that good." You know,
yeah, Peter Kay was the host.
Yeah,
and he was brilliant because
he's so good, Peter Kay. I love Peter Kay.
About 3 hours into it, like that's how long it went for 4 hours or something.
Jesus.
3 hours into it, Barry Manilow did a medley of his hits.
Oh wow.
I can't see.
Yeah, well, that's impressive. I mean,
and then he got to the end of it and came forward to the stage. What we thought was going to be a bow, and he goes, "I'm going to have to do that again," because he wasn't happy with it. So they had to reset the whole set.
Oh my God.
And Peter Kay came out and he slagged Barry Manilow off. That was, you know, you can't. Have you seen his facelift? Have you seen his facelift? He can't see you, bloody right. I can't see. He can't even look out of his eyes. And then walked off like just slagging him off because it was taking too long. This was too long. And he walked off, you know, with the spotlight following him because they're obviously ready. All right, here we go. And he walks off, and just as he's leaving, he like looks over his shoulder and goes, "Barry Manilow." And that was, the place exploded. Like, that was his way of introducing Barry Manilow. Freaking Barry Manilow. And so Barry Manilow was on it. Who else was on it?
Well, that's two big names there.
There was a big old guy. It's a big name.
That's Tom Jones.
Like Tom Jones, but, you know, American crooner, like almost like Sinatra.
Oh, Val Doonican.
What?
Val Doonican?
No.
No, Tony Bennett.
Tony Bennett.
Right.
And then this policeman came up to me with a program. Would you sign the page of because you're on? Everyone's got their own page. And I went, that's a great idea. I've got a program. Oh yeah, I got a pen. I'm standing beside Tony Bennett. Tony, would you sign that? And Peter looked at me and he goes, "Where did it all go wrong, Jimoen? You've changed." I go, all right. But would you sign it? And I'm not signing nothing.
Is he still doing stand-up, Peter Kay?
Yeah.
Oh, he's
he
funny.
Ever? Friggin' hell, he played.
He never tours here.
He never toured. He didn't. He went on tour, but he didn't go on tour. He stayed and did Salford. He did 30 nights in Salford.
In his own town.
In his own town. He lived up the road. I'm not going on tour. You can come to me. And he did, 18,000 people a night for 30 nights in his own, and everyone came to see him.
Oh, yeah. I think people in Australia don't realise who he is, but I love him, Peter Kay.
He's hilarious. And his mum's from Northern Ireland.
Oh,
his
wow.
Mum's from Tyrone. Because he would do an impression of his mum, and I was like, I looked at Owen O'Neill, I go, his mum's from Tyrone. He goes, yeah. So he won So You Think You're Funny. That was the start of his career.
Yeah.
And Owen and I just deliberately went backstage because he'd won it, but we just went up to him and said, "Your mum's from Tyrone." He said, yeah. I go, that's how good his impression of her was.
He seems like a nice guy, but I remember my wife saw him on Parkinson years ago and said, "There's this comic that's like you." Oh, who's that? And it was Peter Kay. It's a great compliment.
Well, he was so confident on Parkinson because he was a warm-up guy on Parkinson.
Ah, was
for
he?
For years.
Oh, there
he
you
was
go.
a warm-up guy.
So he knew everything about the show.
Yeah. And then he goes, when he brought him on, this guy used to say, "One day I'm going to be on this show." And he did the closing night with Billy Connolly.
Oh.
And not friggin' only was he on it, he was a warm-up guy.
He did that great routine on Parkinson about being the keyboardist in Soft Cell. In Tainted Love.
Yeah.
I think he's getting his dad to do it. Because it's just one note. It's a very funny routine if it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
He gets up and minds
then he gets carried away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of those routines I watch when I'm feeling a bit sad. I watch that and it makes me laugh every time. So funny. Yeah.
Tainted Love was one of those songs in America that wasn't a hit. And because Motown had made all these records, they would just ship them as cargo, as ballast on ships that went back to the UK, and they would end up at ports.
All right.
And then jukeboxes come out, and then that was one of the songs, and people went, "We love this song."
Oh, it was huge here in Australia.
And it was, but it was only because of that it became a hit.
Oh yeah, they never really had another hit.
It was Ballast.
Tenet Love. Anyway, here we are. We're driving from Moorumba.
And it's flat.
That's
and it is boring.
What did you say to them? It's just a whole lot of...
I've never seen so much of nothing.
Yes. Well, it is. It's like the start of Wizard of Oz. It's like flat.
You've got it in spades, have you? Nothing.
They loved it. It was a great night last night. And a lot of farmers.
A lot of farmers. And I love those. We're driving past those Southern Cross windmills that are iconically Australian to me.
They are great. But we're now past Shep, so it's greener. We're in Victoria.
Yeah.
Whereas we were in
But I never saw this. I was 6 months in Australia before I saw this part of Australia, which I was dying to see, which is like proper Australia, where gum trees.
Where did you land? In Sydney?
In Sydney, yeah, but I'd never seen gum trees like that. Or kangaroo. We just saw a whole load of emus. We saw some kangaroos. And the leaves of eucalyptus trees.
And then it's different again when you go to WA and you see the red dust. You know that red, or South Australia, that red dust. It's different again. I asked everyone these questions, Jimoen, about the gig last night. I asked everyone.
Yeah.
So what went well for you last night at the gig, you reckon? Like, what went off?
What went off? Anything to do with farming.
Yes.
I had a couple of farming jokes.
That farming joke you do is brilliant.
That you can only do to farming people.
You say, I don't know if I should repeat it, but it's a very funny joke where you say, farmers always say they're broke.
Yeah.
Until the farm next door comes up for sale.
Yeah.
As a woman said to me, the farmer's wife afterwards, so true.
Yeah. I might have that in my front pocket.
Yeah, that's right.
How much?
But what didn't go well? Did you find anything didn't go well?
The ukulele, because I couldn't, there was no DI, and then I was, hang on, I can't do that. So I can't even remember how that song goes. Sometimes I'll forget how a song, I don't really remember a song until I start playing it. And then I couldn't get the chords. I thought, oh no, I don't know, because it was bar chords. It was E, and then I don't know that in the ukulele. Oh freaking hell, I'll forget this. So I kind of mumbled off towards the end, but you know, it was kind of still, it was a good gig.
Oh, it was a great gig. But this is my third question. Any organisational hazards getting away at the gig? Was anything?
Any what?
Any organisational hazards? I got these questions.
What does that mean? Like the
lighting, the sound.
Lighting, yeah.
I can bring up one thing: the prawns in the break. So
yeah. So
the guy running it, he had all these king prawns that he wanted to serve in the break, and he said it'll be at least half an hour.
yeah, that kind of lose momentum a wee bit there. Yeah, and the dressing room was in 3 beds. There was 3 beds
in the dressing room
because they use it doubles as whenever they have accommodation for the migrant workers.
Is that what they use it for?
Mm-hmm.
It was freezing though.
Oh yeah, it's cold.
It's cold there. And
I slept with my clothes on last night.
Oh, I know. I saw you get up. You had your clothes on. And but we were staying in a house across the road, which was quite nice. It was good. How can we do better next time, you reckon? That's the last question.
How do we do better next time?
Yeah, if you went back to that gig, no prawns?
No prawns, yeah. No prawns, yeah, 20 minutes. But no, it was nice. I've been on a bill with other comics. I'm often touring on my own now. So it was nice to have a structured comedy night, you know.
Yeah, that's
MC,
good, isn't it? Yeah.
2 supports. And, that's...
Yeah, well, I often say we're like strippers. We go off, we drive somewhere or go on a plane. You turn up and they go, there's your dress. You can go in there for a bit, and then they bring you out.
Yeah.
And it's just, it can be a bit lonely.
Yeah, we should do a bit of stripping. It could be fun, could we?
Yeah.
To finish the night.
And then we went to the pub afterwards, which is right next door to the shed.
Yeah, so I sat in between 2 farmers' wives.
Yeah, they were lovely.
And because then they could protect me, otherwise. But nobody was going to bend your ear. That wasn't that sort of place. They were country folk. They were very civil. They all know each other.
Yeah, but except one guy kept fondling my hair, which was weird.
Yeah.
But I did pick on him a lot. He had dreadlocks.
Yeah. You
Lyle.
Give him...
Lyle?
Yeah, that's probably what it was, to be honest, Dave. I'd probably a wee bit annoyed with you.
Yeah.
and I'll freaking touch his hair.
Well, it is. It's like he was the top dog on stage, hanging shit on me, and then he pointed out my wife, and I said, "Oh, you're punching above your weight, Lyle," and everyone cheered in the crowd and made him feel small, I suppose. And so he kept touching my hair, and then he kept going, "When was the last time you washed it?" I said, "It's got product in it, Lyle." So then I moved away from him, started talking to other guys, and I feel someone touching my hair, and he's back again behind me, touching my hair.
Yeah, you skedaddled. You were back in the house.
No, I'm going back to the accommodation.
Watching. What were you watching?
I was watching, just the TV they had there, $1 Million Island.
Yeah, right.
Which I've just seen the ads for it. I mean, I'm intrigued by it. They put all these people on an island, and the last one remaining wins $1 million.
Can't watch that shite.
No, I don't watch a lot of it either, but, you know.
Life's too short.
Life's too short. Anyway, here we are. We're driving back. Thanks for going on the podcast.
Not a problem.
Jimoen. And go and see Jimoen. If you're in Queensland, he's doing FNQ very soon. But you're around generally. If you live in Australia, Jimoen will eventually come to a place where you live within an hour or 2 hours drive of you.
Wait, I'm on my way.
Just wait. And it's always a good night out. It's always a good night out. Thanks, Jimoen.
Cheers, Dave. Yeah.